Hello. 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 We're here for part 4. We're on chapter 3 of this mandate for leadership, the conservative promise, also known as Project 2025. You know, whatever. This garbage. I can't believe we're still reading this. I hate my life. Why did I do this to myself? Because, for you, the good people who also are pained by this thing. If you're a supporter, thank you so much for supporting us financially. If you are a supporter who's been supporting me emotionally through this journey in the live chat, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you more than you could ever possibly know. So thank you for that. As you can see, I did not get out of my pajamas because they didn't put in the effort. I'm not putting in the effort. I'm already putting in way more work into this and trying to understand what they're saying than they bothered to try to make it comprehensible. In fact, I'm beginning to suspect that they made it incomprehensible on purpose. Okay, so couple updates. As I said yesterday, I was not able to stream art yesterday. Hopefully I'll be able to do that today, because I was going to the vet with the doggo. So updates on the doggo, for anybody who doesn't know. I did update in the Discord, and I did update on Twitter, but I had not updated here because I figured I'd just tell you. So it cost about $200, which is pretty good. We got his blood work done. I don't have the results of the blood work yet. Could have stuck around and waited, but nah. So, should get a call about that in a couple of days. If not by the end of the week, it'll probably be on Monday. Obviously, they'll call earlier if there's some kind of major issue or anything. Puck has lost a little bit of weight, but nothing that is, concerning. Mostly that has to do with his diet change, because, as you may be aware, the reason why we're getting his blood work done is to check up on his blood work from when he had surgery done, as he had a toe removal, and the reason he had a toe removal is because he got toe cancer right after the company all wished fucking cancer on my dog. Weird how that worked out. Maybe your wishes do have power when you put them into the universe. Anyway. So he's doing well. His energy is good. He was a great sport at the vet. He has those shepherd veins, and I gotta say, the vet got it first try. Got his vein first try, and I gotta say, I was impressed. On the other hand, he did have a toenail that bent back, like if you bend like a fingernail back. He basically did that, and that was loose, and they just removed that. And my vet was nice enough to just do that for free, because she just went, oh, boink, and just pulled it right off, and it was just like a boink and a yelp, and he was done. So now she just said make sure to keep it clean, so make sure he gets a soak in some saline, so basically salt water, for sterilized salt water, for once a night, just to make sure it stays clean so it doesn't get infected. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Puck is doing great. He's doing fine. He's having a good day. He's out in the backyard right now. Good to go. And she didn't even charge me for that, so that was nice. And I didn't have to buy any extra, make sure you keep him clean stuff. So, anyway, that's the updates with Puck. He's good. He's good to go. Any other updates? Oh, yes, some of the company members, since I did my stream. So, I announced I was doing a stream. They freaked out. I did my stream. They've proceeded to do a bunch of a handful of streams now. I think they're up to 3, maybe 4. Yeah, 4, about 4 videos streams, all related to what I was talking about in pockets related to the stuff I was talking about on Monday. If you're interested, go check out their channels. So far as I've been able to tell, there hasn't really been anything substantive to discuss or talk about or continue to say about that group for the time being. So if there are updates or if there's something that needs to be addressed, I'll make sure to address it. But that's not why we're here today. We're here to get to chapter and read through chapter 3. Yippee! So chapter 3, section 1, taking the reins of the government. We're right here. 69, lol. Although what's worse about this is this number does not match the PDF number. The PDF page number is like 101, which is what we're at, as opposed to page 69, which is the internal counting. So, hey. 3. Central personnel agencies managing the bureaucracy: Donald Devine, Dennis Dean Kirk, and Paul Dans. Are you ready to rumble? No, I'm not. Can we just go back to bed? Is going back to bed an option? Is that a choice we can make? Of course it's not. We are here for pain. Overview. From the very first mandate for leadership, the personnel is policy. Personnel is policy. Oh, hold on. Let me just. Here we go. Personnel as policy theme has been the fundamental principle guiding the government's personnel management. Oh, you mean having a bunch of people who just agree with you and firing anybody based on their political affiliation? Uh-huh. As the U.S. Constitution makes clear, the president's appointment, direction, and removal authorities are the central element of his executive power. In implementing that power, the people and the president deserve the most talented and responsible Wait a minute. Sorry, I just realized something. This says overview. None of the other ones said overview, but they all had this yellow square. Were all of them supposed to be an overview that then just flowed into the rest of the part? I hate this document. I don't hate this document because of its content. I'll probably eventually hate this document because of its content. I hate this document because of its formatting and its lack of effort and pathetic nature by which this thing fucking exists. This is terrible. It has to be on purpose. These are people who worked in the Oval Office who wrote this shit. These are like professionals in their field and they don't fucking know how to goddamn put forward a fucking regular ass formatting of a document. This isn't real. This is fake. This is fake news. I refuse to accept this. I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger so it's like a little bit longer. There you go. This isn't real. It's on purpose, right? It has to be. I can't respect this document. And I can't respect the people who worked on this document because of how poorly this document is put together. Oh, hey, Vandelli, I haven't seen you in a while. Here is money for therapy after reading this document. Thank you. I appreciate funny. These were people hired by Trump to work in the Oval Office. Boy, bold of you to assume they are competent. Okay, alright, listen, maybe they're not competent in X, Y, or Z, but, like, they should be competent in putting together a document. Like, I'm not a super duper professional, but I know how to make a document, like, at least be consistent. And I understand that communication is, like, a skill, and it's difficult to do, but, like, even I could... Come on, dude. Cut me some slack. Oh, if you see me looking down, by the way, that's you. You guys are down there. Beneath me. I'm kidding. Hold on, I want to move you guys up here. There we go. That's better. These people are former kids who were not failed in English class exclusively, so the teacher wouldn't have to deal with them another year. I forgot my Tim Pool hat. You guys fucking kill me, man. This is the only reason that this is bearable for me to do, because honestly, if I was reading this by myself, I probably would either A, be done by now by reading it, because I'm quite a fast reader, or B, I would have put it down because I would have given up after the foreword. I would have been like, oh, this document is nonsense, okay. But, like, realistically, you guys make these streams. There's no point in doing these streams if there's no live chat. Let's be real. Okay. What was... Oh, right. I realized this was an overview, and I had an existential crisis for a minute. Uh, in implementing that power, the people and the president deserve the most talented and responsible workforce possible. Oh, so experts? Who the president is who the president assigns to design and implement his political policy agenda will determine whether he can carry out the responsibility given to him by the American people. The president must recognize that whoever holds a government position sets its policy. To fulfill an electoral mandate, he must therefore give personnel management his highest priority, including cabinet level precedence. The federal government's immense bureaucracy spreads to hundreds of agencies and thousands of units and is centered and overseen at the top by key central personnel agencies and their governing laws and regulations. The major separate personnel agencies in the government today are the Office of Personnel Management, or the OPM, the Merit System Protection Board, or the MSPB, the Federal Labor Relations Authority, or the FLRA, and the Office of Special Counsel, or OSC. Oh boy. Oh my god, they actually did a proper overview and then started a new paragraph. Oh my god. 3 individuals worked on this one in particular, and they actually formatted the document in a way that made fucking sense. Good job. Reading this by oneself is an invitation to spend 6 months in the fetal position while drooling on the carpet. Oh my god. You guys have no chill today. Did you guys just wake up and choose violence? Chat has chosen violence. I feel like that needs to be a meme. That needs to be something that goes, like, on you guys. That like, just an indicator that you guys are just violent today. I mean, I don't blame you. This is, like, the 4th stream on this, and we're on, like, chapter 3, and there's, like, 16 chapters, so if we keep on keeping on, we're gonna be done reading it, like, 2 months from now. Title 5 of the U.S. Code charges the OPM with executing, administrating, and enforcing the rules, regulations, and laws governing the civil service. It grants the OPM... I could probably zoom this in a little bit, right? Can I do that? There we go. There you go. There you go. It grants the OPM direct responsibility for activities like retirement pay, health, training, federal unionization, suitability, and classification functions not specifically granted to other agencies by statute. The agency's director is charged with aiding the president, as the president may request, in preparing such civil service rules as the president prescribes, the otherwise advising the president on actions that may be taken to promote an efficient civil service and systematic application of the merit system principles, including recommending policies relating to the selection, promotion, transfer, performance pay, conditions of service, tenure, and separation of employees. If this looks a little bit blurry to you, it's the document. Sometimes it's just a little bit blurry. I don't know why. The MSPB is the lead adjudicator for hearing and resolving cases and controversies for 2.2 million federal employees. It is required to conduct fair and neutral case adjudications, regulatory reviews, and actions and studies to improve the workforce. Its court-like adjudication investigate and hear appeals from agency actions, such as furloughs, suspensions, demotions, and terminations, and are applicable to the U.S. Court of Appeals. The FLRA hears appeals of agencies' personnel's cases involving federal labor grievance procedures to provide judicial review with binding decisions appealable to appeals court. It interprets the rights and duties of agencies and employee labor organizations on management rights, OPM, interpretations, recognition of labor organizations, and fair labor practices under a general principle of bargaining in good faith and compelling need. Oh, you mean like unions? That thing that one certain felon Trump decided to applaud Elon Musk for firing anybody talking about joining a union, which is illegal, by the way. That that thing, is that one of the things? Okay. The OS The OSC serves as the investigator, mediator, publisher, and prosecutor before the MSPB with respect to agency and employees regarding prohibited personnel practices, Health Act, politicization, Uniformed Service Employees, and Reemployment Rights Act issues and whistleblower complaints. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the EEOC, has general responsibility for reviewing charges of employee discrimination against civil rights breaches. However, it also administers a government employee section that investigates and adjudicates federal employee complaints concerning equal employment violations. As with the private sector, this makes the agency an additional de facto factor in government personnel management. While not a personnel agency per se, the General Service Administration, GSA, is in charge with general supervision of contracting. Today, there are many more contractors in government than there are civil service employees. The GSA must therefore be a part of any personnel management discussion. Does that mean, like, maybe the government should look to hire more people as opposed to contractors, which are under different kinds of jurisdiction, maybe? I don't know. Analysis and recommendations. OMP, managing the federal bureaucracy at the very pinnacle of the modern progressive program to make government competent, stands the ideal professionalized career civil service. What? At the very Okay, I don't know if my brain just blinked out there for a second, or if that was... At the very principle of the modern progressive program to make government competent stands the ideal of professionalized career civil service. Didn't they say throughout this document already that, like, people who are career politicians and career working government are bad people or are, like, scum? Isn't that what we went over? I could have sworn that was the case. I could have sworn that's what we were doing. Oh, that's the wrong way. There we go. I could have sworn that's what we were doing. Is that not what we're doing? Okay. I don't know. Since the turn of the 20th century, progressives have sought a system that could effectively select, train, reward, and guard from partisan influence the neutral scientific experts they believe are required to staff the national government and run the administrative state. Their U.S. system was initiated by the Pellington Act of 1883 and institutionalized by the 1930s. New Deal set the principles and practices that were meant to ensure that expert merit rather than partisan favors or personal favoritism ruled within the federal bureaucracy. Yet, as the public frustration with the civil service has grown, generating calls to, quote, drain the swamp. You made that up. You made that up. That was something you guys made up, though. That's a slogan. Okay. It has become clear that their project has had serious unintended consequences. So the swamp is the experts? That's who's the swamp? Oh. Oh, okay. What? Trump put Jared Kushner in charge of Israel. Like, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? Did we forget that Trump also has, like, way too many ties to way too many other economic issues? Are we just ignoring that? I think I understand what's going on. This is more or less a guidebook for incoming political appointees who have zero experience in government combined with conservative propaganda. Yes. This is basically a propaganda document designed to set them up to do whatever they want, regardless of how contradictory it sounds. And how much this would be absolutely unacceptable if the Democratic Party were to put something equally as ridiculous forward. because this document is absurd. Like this document is ridiculous. I have a hard time, like, this document is a joke. Like, unfortunately, it's a threatening joke, but a joke nonetheless. Trump owns money in how many countries? How is that not a conflict of interest? Right. It is. It is. The civil service was devised to replace... Should I make this green, since that's the color that you guys get for memberships? Should I make these green? Because these are all the members. This gets reset every month. So if you're a member so it rolls over. So if you're a member right now and you don't see your name up there yet, it's because it rolls over next in the month. The beginning of the month is when I do it. Should I make this green? The civil service was... I should be allowed to pick the colors of memberships. The color that you guys turn. I mean, I would pick green, so it works. But I feel like I should be able to decide what color I want. Listen, I'm just looking for any excuse to stop talking about this. I can't help it. It's not my fault. Hold on, let's see if I can do that. Let's see. Is that something I can do right now? If I do this. Let's do like an olivey type green. Let's do like a goblin-y looking foresty goblin green. Apply. All right, let's see how it looks. That's too dark. That's too dark. That's too dark. We need a little bit lighter than that. It's hard to see. There we go. I could make you guys pink. Hey, Mark, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate your sacrifice to the algorithm and beyond. The civil service was devised to replace the amateurism and presumed corruption of the old spoils system, wherein government jobs rewarded loyal partisans who might or might not have professional backgrounds, like Jared Kushner. Although the system appeared to be sufficient for the nation's first century, progressive intellectuals and activists demanded a more professionalized, scientific, and politically neutral administration. Weird. Why would they want something like that? Progressives designed a merit system to promote expertise and shield bureaucrats from partisan political pressure, but it soon began to insulate civil servants from accountability. How? In what way? The modern merit system increasingly made it almost impossible to fire all but the most incompetent civil servants. Complying with... You mean like police officers? Complying with arcane rules. I know they mean old, but I'm like, magic? Regarding recruiting, rating, hiring, and firing simply replaced the goals of cumulative competence and expertise. In the 1970s, Georgia Democratic Governor Jimmy Carter, then a political unknown, ran for president supporting New Deal programs and their Great Society expansion, but opposing the way they were being administered. The policies were not actually reducing poverty, increasing prosperity, or improving the environment, he argued, and to make them work required fundamental bureaucratic reform. He correctly charged that almost all government employees were rated as successful, all received the same pay regardless of performance, and even the worst were impossible to fire, and he won the presidency. I mean, okay, so I heard somebody say recently, and I think I agree with them, is that the government ought to be a competitive employer. So, you want the best of the best, and you want them to be insulated from bullshit, right? That's what you want. You should want the best people working for your government, right? That's what you should want. So, and to do that, you need to pay them and pay them well. So realistically, if you're working for the city, and realistically if you're working for the government, you should have competitive, if not the highest pay in that field. In my opinion. I mean, I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. I think having, like, the best scientists, the best landscapers, the best, like, even just down to manual labor, right? President Carter fulfilled his campaign promise by hiring Syracuse University Dean Alan Campbell, who served first as chairman of the U.S. Civil Service Commission and then as director of the OPM, and helped him devise and pass the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978, CSRA, to reset the basic structure of today's bureaucracy. A new performance appraisal system was devised with a 5 rather than 3 distribution of rating categories and individual goals, more related to agency missions and more related to employee promotion for all. Pay and benefits were based directly on improved performance appraisals, including stabilized sizable bonuses for mid-level managers and senior executives. Period. But take a drink. Time ran out on President Carter before the act could be fully executed, so it was left to President Ronald Reagan and his new OPM and agency leadership to implement. Take a drink for Ronald Reagan. Syracuse? Okay, thank you. Overall, the new law seemed to work for a few years under Reagan, but the Carter-Reagan reforms were dissipated within a decade. Oh, you mean Reagan failed to enact Carter's stuff that was left to him? When you mean you guys know that for a couple of years into a presidency, or for like a year into a presidency, you're dealing with whatever the previous administration did, meaning that the economy that you inherit from the prior president affects your presidency? What? No. Yeah, no, just cruising. We can't do that. That would be a problem. Today, employee evaluation is back to pre-reform levels, with almost all rated successful or above. I feel like it would just be in America's interest to take anything Reagan did and just be like, let's just undo this and maybe seriously reconsider what these things were, and maybe reattempt to implement some of them and just abolish others. Successful or above, frustrating any relation between pay and performance. An outstanding rating should be required for senior executive service SES chiefs to win big bonuses, but a few years ago, when it was disclosed that the Veterans Administration executives who encouraged false reporting of waiting lists for hospital admission were rated outstanding, the Senior Executive Association justified it, telling Congress that only outstanding performances would be promoted to the SES in the first place, and that precise rating was unnecessary. The Government Accountability Office, the GAO, however, has reported that pay raises within grade pay increases and locality pay for regular employees and executives have become automatic rather than based on performance, as a result of most employees being rated at a similar appraisal levels. OPM merit hiring and merit system. It should not be impossible, even for a large national government, to hire good people through merit selection. The government did so for years, but it has proven difficult in recent times to select personnel based on their knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSA, as the law dictates. Oh, really? Is it because you want people who agree with you as opposed to people who, like, politically and will do whatever you want, as opposed to experts? Locality. Thank you. Oh my god, my brain just can't sometimes. Yet, for the past 34 years, the U.S. Civil Service has been unable to distinguish consistently between strong and unqualified applicants for employment. As the Carter presidency was winding down, the U.S. Department of Justice and top lawyers at the OPM contrived with plaintiffs to end civil service IQ examinations because of concern about their possible impact on minorities. And IQ exams are bullshit. The OPM had used the Professional and Administrative Care Examination, PACE, or PACE, General Intelligence Exam, to select college graduates for top agency employment, but Carter administration officials, probably without the president's informed concurrence, you just throw that in there based on what? Abolished the PACE through a legal consent court decree capitulating to demands by civil rights petitioners who contended that it was discriminatory. Yeah, because IQ tests are bullshit. And it was because of redlining and racism. Obviously. The judicial decree was to last only 5 years, but still controls federal hiring as it applies to all KSA tests even today. Hey, do you guys think that Donald Trump would pass an IQ test? Do you guys think he would pass the test to become a citizen of America? Because there's like a test you have to take, right? Do you think he would pass? You guys let me know what you think. General abilities tests like the PACE have been used successfully to assess the usefulness and cost-effectiveness of broad intellectual qualities across many separate operations, such as examples, nothing. Courts have ruled that even without evidence of overt intentional discrimination, such results may suggest discrimination. This doctrine of if you guys are so smart, then come up with an alternative that removes the issues. This doctrine of desperate impact could be ended legislatively or at least narrowed through the regulatory process by a future administration. In any event, they're not proposing how to fix it. There's no such thing as a pass or a fail on an IQ test, but he couldn't get the minimum requirement at that. Okay, we'll put it this way. Do you think he'd get above or below me? Allegedly, my IQ is 62. I don't know much about IQ tests. The numbers kind of mean nothing to me. I assume big number mean big and small number mean small because I'm Canadian and we don't use them here. So I don't know what it's again, we're back to there's America and not America. And in not America, sometimes we do things in other ways and are successful. And it might behoove America to look outside of itself and see what other countries are doing and maybe do that. Maybe give it a try. I don't know. In any event, the federal government has been denied the use of a rigorous entry examination for 3 decades, relying instead on self-evaluations that have forced managers to resort to subterfuge, such as pre-selecting friends or associates that they believe are competent to obtain qualified employees. You mean like Jared Kushner? 62, that's about a German Shepherd. Yay, I'm about as smart as Puck. Perfect. Actually, Puck is a Shepherd Collie, so I don't know what that means. IQ tests measure the ability to learn new things, not knowledge. Oh, median. No, don't tell me. No, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I choose to remain incompetent and obtuse to IQs. I don't want to know. It's like being insulted in a language you don't speak. I know I'm being insulted, and I'm okay with it. In 2015, Barack Obama's OPM began to introduce an improvement merit examination called USA Hire, which it had been testing quietly since 2012 in a few agencies for a dozen job descriptions. The test had multiple choice questions with only one correct answer. Some questions even required essay replies, questions that would change regularly to depress cheating. Previous President Donald Trump's OPM planned to implement such changes but was delayed because of legal concerns over possible disparate impact. So you're telling me that Trump tried to copy Obama, but be racist about it? Is that what you're telling me? Courts have agreed to review the consent decree if the uniform guidelines on employee selection procedures setting the technical requirements for sound exams are reformed. A government that is unable to select employees based on KSA like test qualifications cannot work. Well, I mean, we've already shown that it can work, and it does work, and it has been working. Because you said Reagan failed, so what do you mean? And the OPM must move forward on this very basic personnel management obligation. The centrality of performance appraisal. Hey, Autumn. In the meantime, the OPM must manage the workforce it has. Before they can reward or discipline federal employees, managers must first identify who their top performers are and who is performing less than adequately. In fact, as Ludwig von Mises proved in his classic Bureaucracy, unlike the profit and loss evaluation tool used in the private sector, government performance measurements depends totally on a functioning appraisal system. If they cannot be identified in the first place within a functional appraisal system, it is impossible to reward good performance or correct poor performance. Interesting that the book talks about correcting poor performances and not disciplining, and they've kind of bait and switched that one around, but okay. The problem is that the collegial atmosphere of a bureaucracy in a multifaceted appraisal system that is open to appeals makes this a very challenging ideal to implement successfully. What do you mean? You're saying that the problem is that in a collegial atmosphere where people know what they're doing and what they're talking about, and having an appraisal system, so if they get wrongfully tagged with something that they didn't, it makes it hard for you to just do whatever you want. Yeah, that's the point. It's supposed your employees are supposed to be protected from some dipshit management. Duh. The GAO reported more recently that overly high and widely spread performance ratings were again plaguing the government, with more than 99% of employees rated fully successful or above by their managers, a mere 0.3% rated as minimally successful, and a 0.1 actually rated unacceptable. Why? Maybe you have good employees. Is it possible that maybe you have good employees? No, it can't be that. I mean, I doubt that that's the case, but the fact that they're not actually putting forward any solution or any actual information about this, that it, like, I feel like my response is equally as valid. It is human nature that no one appreciates being told that he or she is less than outstanding in every way. No, it's not. That's not normal. It's how you say it is what determines whether or not people appreciate it. If you're just yet people don't like being treated like shit, that's not the The people who wrote this are so fucking out of touch. It's amazing. Yes, I am human. Informing subordinates in a closely knit bureaucracy that they are not performing well is difficult. No, it's not. It's really not hard. I've done this. It's not that hard. It's really easy. I worked in middle management. I also worked in management, in charge of like my own little pockets. Like, it's not hard to say somebody's not doing well. You just say, hey, you're shrugging a little bit in this, what's going on? It's really not that hard. It's not difficult. Rating compatriots is even considered rude and unprofessional. Well, yeah, depending on how you're doing it. If you're wording it that way, probably. You kind of just sound like you're a douchebag. Moreover, managers can be, and also, yeah, it's not your job to rate the employee beside you. You don't know what their tasks are. You don't know what they've been set to do. Unless you know those things, and you're tattling, yeah, tattling isn't considered rude and unprofessional. It's considered being a dick. Praise me or else, said by Trump and God with equally menacing voices. Yeah. I'm definitely human with my definitely human feet and definitely human teeth. Moreover, managers can be and often are accused of racial or sexual discrimination for a poor rating, and this discourages honesty. Does it? Is that the thing that it encourages? You know, you could be being honest and being discriminatory at the same time, right? Because you could just be a bigot. You could just be a sexist. You could just hate women. And so when you're evaluating women, you're doing so honestly, but it is not honest to the system because you're not actually evaluating them fairly due to your bias. I didn't realize I needed to explain this like you were 3. The fact that these people who claim to be professionals have been part of all this fucking shtick, acting, like, just not understanding basic concepts is kind of, like, a weird tell. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, you have to be purposefully stupid, but, like, in 2000... I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm just a dumbass. In 2018, prior President Trump issued Executive Order 13839, or 13,839, requiring agencies to reduce the time for employees to improve performance before corrective action could be taken, to initiate disciplinary action against poorly performing employees more expediently, to reiterate that agencies are obligated to make employees improve, to reduce the time for employees to respond to allegations of poor performance, to mandate that the agencies remind supervisors of expiring employee probation periods, to prohibit agencies from entering into settlement agreements that modify an employee's personal record, and to reevaluate procedures for agencies to discipline supervisors who retaliate against whistleblowers. You notice that all of these are negative. So he puts this executive order to make it easier to punish people, but doesn't say a single thing about, does that mean that their bonuses for those improvements need to be showing up sooner and faster? Because that needs to go both ways. If it's not going both ways, it's clearly just an attack on your staff. And that's not going to make you look like a good boss. Kind of makes you look like a piece of shit. Side note, I like how this one extra in here is and to reevaluate procedures for agencies to discipline supervisors who retaliate against whistleblowers, i.e., making it easier for supervisors to retaliate against whistleblowers without any actionable accountability from the governing bodies who are supposed to do that. Voluntary performance feedback from coworkers is useful. Yes, absolutely. Yes. But tattletaling on shit you don't know is douchey. I think that asking employees about how they view their other employees is very useful information for a manager. Because that can help you build that can help you make your team far more cohesive, and can help with the way you delegate tasks and the way you explain who's doing what, so that way people don't feel like things are happening that aren't happening, right? So like sometimes somebody will feel like, oh, well, that employee's not doing anything, and all that employee is doing is following their directive, but their directive is a little bit different. But if that's not clear and understood, then it can lead to, what's the word I'm looking for? Resentment amongst employees and management due to something that could easily just be communicated in a way that disables that. Also, I'm really good at that. This is one of the things that I, like, when I was working, like, corporate and when I was working, like, regular real people jobs, this was the thing that I excelled at. So yeah, if you need a consultant about communications in any capacity, whether it be a workplace, whether it be a community management, hit me up. I got you. These are the people who make people not want to work for corporate America. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, the order was overturned by the Biden administration. Good, you know what? Good job, Biden. You know, I haven't had a whole lot to congratulate Biden on. This is a thing that this is something that like that people should get behind. So it will need to be introduced in 2025 or whenever the next conservative president gets in. The fact remains that meaningfully evaluating employees' performance is a critical part of a manager's job. Yeah, which is why you should let them take the time that they need to do so instead of rushing it. In the Reagan drink for Reagan. In the Reagan appraisal process, managers were evaluated on how they themselves rated their subordinates. This is critical to responsibility and improved management. These people need to stop treating the American government and America like it's a business. It is essential that political executives build policy goals directly into employee appraisals, both for mission success and for employees to know what is expected, indistinguishable from their co-workers on paper. Hardworking federal employees often go unrewarded for their efforts and are often the system's greatest critics. Sure. Federal workers who are performing inadequately get neither the benefit of an honest appraisal nor clear guidance on how to improve. What? Federal workers who are performing inadequate neither get the benefit of an honest... How? Where? Political executives should take an active role in supervising performance appraisals of career staff, not unduly delegate these responsibilities to senior career managers, and be willing to reward and support good performers. Merit pay. Performance and appraisal means... Why? Okay, I have a question. This is supposed to be a really important document of all the policies of day one of a presidency, and the majority of this so far is talking about the jobs that are necessary / not necessary, and they've only really brought up 2. And now this is talking about like how to run government employee management to cut costs ostensibly, right? Like that's what you guys are getting from this, same as me, like how to squeeze your employees and remove protections for them, like a business. Why is this the first and most prominent thing that these people care about, as opposed to like anything else? Merit pay. Performance appraisal means little to daily operations if not tied directly to real consequences for success as well as failure. According to a survey of major U.S. private companies, which unlike the federal government also have profit and loss evaluation, 90% use a system of merit pay for performance based on some type of appraisal system. Despite early efforts to institute merit pay throughout the federal government, however, compensation is still based primarily on seniority rather than merit. Stop trying to run it like the private sector. Stop it. It's not a company. It's not a for-profit company. Merit pay for executives and managers was part of the Carter reforms and was implemented early in the Reagan presidency. Drink for Reagan. My drink is just about done. It's okay. I have my gin that's also just about done. I have to go get some ice cubes. I love having an ice cube tray. I didn't have an ice cube tray forever, and now I have one, and I'm so happy about it. I'm not a difficult person to please, okay? Beginning in the summer of 1982, the Reagan, drink for Reagan, OMP, entered 18 months of negotiation with the House and Senate staff on extending merit pay to the entire workforce. Long and detailed talks between the OPM and both, did I read that backwards? OPM and both the Democratic and Republicans in Congress issued, and a final agreement was reached in 1983 that supposedly ensured the passage of legislation creating a new performance management and recognition system, the PMRS, for all, not just management, GS-13 through GS-15 employees. Meanwhile, the OPM issued regulations to expand the role of performance-related pay throughout the entire workforce, but congressional allies of the employee union, led by Representative Hoyer, Democrat, D for Democrat, a government employee, employer-rich Maryland, of government employer-rich Maryland, so they hire a lot of government employees, I guess, stoutly resisted this extension of pay for performance and, with strong union support, used the congressional appropriations process to block OPM administrative pay reforms. Bonuses for SES career employees survived, but performance appraisals became so high and widely distributed that there was little relationship between the performance and remuneration. Ever since the original merit pay system for federal managers, GM 13 through GM 15 grade levels just below SES was allowed, you haven't explained what any of them, was allowed to expire in September of 1993. Little to nothing has been done either. Who was president in 1993? Who was president in 1993? Oh, it was Bill Clinton. Hilarious. But he started in 1993. Okay, who was president in 1992? Oh, it was Bush. So this would have been something the Bush administration should have dealt with, and then it ended when Clinton started. So Clinton could have dealt with it, didn't. Bush could have extended it, didn't. Just to be clear. By the looks of things. Hey Sly, good to see you. Thanks for coming to Pain the Movie. Extended edition. Little to nothing has been done to reinstate the federal merit pay program for managers or distribute performance rating evaluations for the SES, much less to extend the program to the remainder of the workforce. A reform-friendly president and Congress must provide the opportunity to create a more comprehensive performance plan. In the meantime, however, political executives should use existing pay and especially fiscal reward strategy to reward good performance and to the degree allowed by law. This sounds like this is a setup for them to put whoever they want in, regardless of their their actual regardless of their expertise, and they should be allowed to just raise their money and how much they're making as much as they want. That's what this sounds like to me. Making the appeals process work. The non-military government dismissal rate is well below 1%, and no private sector industry employee enjoys the job security that a federal employee enjoys. Don't stop pretending the government and its employees are private sector businesses. They're not the same. The government is not a business. The government is the American people aren't your fucking employees. They're not your fucking customers. Stop it. Both safety and justice demand that managers learn to act strategically to hire good and fire poor performers legally. The initial paper, like Jared Kushner? I'm gonna keep bringing up Jared Kushner. I mean, Ivanka's just as bad, but I like picking Kushner because it's funny. The initial paperwork required to separate poor and abusive performers when they are frequently identified is not overwhelming, and managers might be motivated to act if it were not for the appeals and enforcement process. Why? Formal appeal in the private sector is almost a rather simple two-step process, but government unions and associations have been able to convince politicians to support a multiple and extensive appeals and performance process. Wow, unions protecting employees. Weird. Wacky. I can't imagine. As noted, there are multiple administrative appeal bodies. The FLRA, OSC, and EEOC have relatively narrow jurisdictions. Claims that an employee's removal or disciplinary action violated the terms of a collective bargaining agreement between the agency and a union are handled by the FLRA. Employees who claim their removal was the result of discrimination can appeal to the EEOC, and employees who are believed to their firing was redistributed for being a whistleblower can go to the OSC, while the MSPB specializes in abuses of direct merit system issues. It can and does hear and review almost any of the matters heard by other agencies. So this is something that's kind of funny too, right? So they're talking, all the 2 chapters before this were describing how they want to fire people and remove everybody who doesn't agree with Trump politically, right? And justifying why that's something that the president should do, ought to do, and has the power to do. And now they're talking about how actually the president doesn't have the power to just do that, and it's these agencies, and we need to gut these agencies to allow a conservative president to do this, because apparently this is something a conservative president should and ought to want to do, which I think the conservative voters should be very, very, very concerned about, because that's fucking scary. Because if these things get gutted for their guys, or if this shit gets gutted, it gets gutted for everybody. That includes them. It means they're removing their own protections for, Big Brother Trump, because that's great. That's a good idea. That's something you want? I know. That's a terrible idea. Cases involving race, gender, religion, age, pregnancy, disability, or national origin can be appealed to the EEOC. What about political affiliation? Or the MSPB, in some cases both, and to the OSC. This gives employees multiple opportunities to prove their cases, and while the EEOC, MSPB, FLRA, and OSC may all apply essentially the same burden of proof, the odds of success may substantially different in each form. Yeah, correct, because they're covering different issues. And in fact, that's by design. In fact, forum shopping among them for a friendlier venue is common practice, but frequent flyers face no consequences for frivolous complaints. Where? Prove it. Show me the data. As a result, meritorious cases are frequently delayed, denying relief and justice to truly aggravated individuals. Don't pretend that this is for people. Don't fucking shut up. The MSPB can and does handle all such matters, but it faces a backlog of an estimated 3,000 cases of people who were potentially wrongfully terminated or disciplined as far back as 2013. From 2017 to 2022, the MSPB lacked the quorum required to decide appeals. On the other hand, as of January 2023, the EEOC had a backlog of 42,000 cases. That would be a reason why you should do things like expedite processes and provide more employees and more experts to be able to quickly go through these cases. That's an argument for more well-paid expert employees. That thing you keep trying to say you're arguing against. While federal employees win appeals relatively infrequently, MSPB... So the thing we're complaining about is actually not happening very often. MSPB administrative judges have upheld agency decisions as much as 80% of the time. What? Am I dumb? I'm sorry, am I not? Can help me. Did federal employees win appeals relatively infrequently? They upheld the decisions 80% of the time? What about this am I not understanding? What? Something about this I'm not... My brain isn't connecting some dots here. Hi, Honest Red. Good to see you. The real problem is that the time and paperwork involved in the elaborate process that managers must undergo during appeals. What? This keeps even the best managers from bringing cases in all but the most egregious cases of poor performance or misconduct. As a result, the MSPB, EEOC, FLRA, and OSC likely see very few cases compared to the number of occurrences, and non-performers continue to be paid and often are placed in non-work positions. Okay, wait, so you're saying that they're overflooded with cases that don't get seen often, but they do and don't win these things or appeal these things at the same time, and that they should be seeing more cases? So 20% of their employees get their termination decision overturned. I think so. But they're saying, like... Okay. Okay. This is the most unclear way to say this in the fucking world. Having a choice of appeals is especially unique to the government. If lower priority issues were addressed in-house, serious adverse actions would be less subject to delay. With the proper limitations of labor union actions, the FLRA should have limited reason for appeals. The EEOC's federal employee selection should be transferred to the MSPB, and many of the OCS's investigatory functions should be returned to the OPM. The MSPB could then become the main reviewer of adverse action, greatly simplifying the version of the appeals process. Yeah, they want to gut it. What they want to do is they want to gut it. Making civil service benefits economically and administratively rational. Oh, okay. And rational, that's what we've been reading so far, right? Yeah. In recent years, the combined wages and benefits to the executive branch civilian workforce totaled $300 billion, according to official data. Period, but, take a drink. I need to make a new drink. My tea tastes like crap. Period, but even that amount does not properly account for billions in unfunded liability for retirement and other government reporting distortions. Damn, employees retiring after years of service. What assholes. Official data also report employment as approximately 2 million, but this ignores approximately 20 million contractors who, while not eligible for government pay and benefits, do receive them indirectly through contracting, even if they are less generous. What the fuck? That you're saying that they're not counted because they don't count, but they're paid through other means that are not related, so they don't count. Are they citing any source for this data? No. This one does not have a source to it. They've actually been pretty clear when they are citing something, they'll put a little number with a citation that you can find down below. Do we want to do we want to add that to our board of things that need citations? The workforce totals. Workforce total money. And that's on page 108. On to the board it goes. This is why journalism is hard, guys. Funny how they don't include the armed forces in the workforce data. Interesting. Official data also claim that national government employees are paid less than private sector employees are paid for similar work, but several more neutral sources demonstrate that public sector workers may make more on average than their private sector counterparts. All of this extravagance deserves close scrutiny. Extravagance? Excuse me? Extravagance? The federal minimum wage set by the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, and enforced by the U.S. Department of Labor, the DOL. Although the federal minimum wage is subject to change, it has not increased since 2009. So what is the national minimum wage? The current federal minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. Extravagance? Fuck you. Fuck you. Super fuck you. Fuck these people. Fuck these authors. They suck an egg. Step on a Lego. Explicit meaning that I'm not allowed to say on YouTube. Market-based pay and benefits. According to current law, federal workers are to be paid wage comparable to equivalent private sector workers rather than compared to all private sector employees. No. Stop, just please stop. If you want to do this equivalent private sector worker pay and shit, please, for the love of God. The government employees should be some of the highest paid minimum wage workers. McDonald's doesn't qualify as human food anyway. Well, the official studies claim that we haven't cited that federal employees are underpaid relative to private sector by 20% or more. A 2016 Heritage Foundation study. We checked ourselves by our own study. This was published by the Heritage Foundation. Found that federal employees receive wages that were 22% higher than wages for similar private sector workers. If the value of employee benefits was included, the total compensation premium for federal employees over their private sector equivalents increased to between 30 and 40%. They got a citation for that one. 2008-16 Heritage Foundation. Why are you going back to 2016? Can we get something a little bit more current? On the wall you go. We're going to have to go and find and read that study and see what the merits of the study are. The American Enterprise Institute found a 14% pay premium and a 61% total compensation premium. Base salary is only one component of a federal employee's total compensation. In addition to high starting wages, federal employees normally receive an annual cost of living adjustment available to all employees and generous scheduled raises known as step increases. Wow. Imagine that. Your wage matching inflation at best. Moreover, a large proportion of federal employees are stationed in Washington, D.C. area, and other large cities are entitled to steep locality pay enhancement to account for the high cost of living in these areas. Wow. Imagine that. your employees being able to afford living in the place where you need them to be to work. A federal employee with 5 years experience receives 20 vacation days, 13 paid sick days, and 10 federal holidays compared to an employee at a large private company who receives 13 days of vacation, 8 paid sick days. Maybe the private sector needs to do better. Thanks for making that incredibly clear. Federal health benefits are more comparable to those provided by Fortune 500 employers, with the government paying 72% of the weighted average premiums, but this is much higher than for most private plans. Almost half private firms do not offer any employer contributions at all. So you're telling me why I should want to work for the government as opposed to one of these fuckers' businesses? Okay. The obvious solution to these discrepancies, oh, here we go. The obvious solution to these discrepancies is to move closer to a market model for federal pay and benefits. Yeah, let's make working for the government worse instead of making the private sector feel like it needs to do better. What did I not just say that this is what they were doing? Oh my fucking god. I know that I probably don't sound as outraged because I am not, like, my brain is currently, like, sputtering at, like, how absolutely absurdly ridiculous what this says is. Like, this is not reasonable. What in the fuck? They just described very reasonable, actually low-end benefits, said the private sector does worse, and then said we should make it shitty. That's... Let's squeeze and stress out our employees. Why? To save money? Because that's not gonna do that. That's not how budgeting works. We hate the poors. We hate the working class. That's what this is. The Conservative Party hates the working class. So if you're a conservative voter and you want to put forward Trump in 2025 and you think that this presidential transition project is something you believe in, you're voting against your own best interests. One need is for a neutral agency to oversee pay hiring decisions, especially for high demand occupations. We can pay them less because more people will take the job. That's what we're seeing in the private sector, right? The private sector is like, oh my god, what do we do with all of these employees? It's certainly not, why doesn't anybody want to work anymore? It's, whoa, we have so many applicants and so many people working all these jobs that we're creating. Yeah, that's what's happening? That's what we're seeing right now? Yeah, okay. Yeah. This is the, you know what, Alicia, you're right. This is Clowntown. We have entered into delusion Clowntown land, everybody. Welcome to Silent Hill. No, this isn't Silent Hill. This is the big top tent, baby. The OPM is independent of agency operations, so it can assess requirements more neutrally. For many years, with its special pay rates program, the OPM evaluated claims that federal rates in an area were too low to attract competent employees. Hey, that's that thing I said. And allowed agencies to offer higher pay when needed rather than increased rates for all. Ideally, the OPM should establish an initial pay schedule for every occupation and region, monitor turnover rates and applicant to position ratios, and adjust pay and recruitment on that basis. Unbelievable. The audacity of these fuckers. They're crazy. You need to have the people that work for your government be the best, not easily swayed by money or other temptations. If you cut any benefits, you will cut your own structures down. What? You mean the government is based on the people? What? It's almost like the thing that they're saying that they want to do is going to have the opposite effect of what they claim they want it to have. I. Wacky. The obvious solution. The guys, it's obvious. It's obvious. Fuck, dude. Most of this requires legislation, but the OPM should be an advocate for a true equality of benefits between the public and private sectors. No! There doesn't, there's no! The government, no! Stop! Don't do it! Stop doing this! Cut it out! Cease and desist! Stop in the name of the law, criminal scum! No! Reforming federal retirement benefit. Oh, okay, you know what? I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get a drink. Hold on. I need some sauce in my system. Please excuse me. Just give me one moment. Sorry for the little bit of that. Took me a little bit longer than intended. I was my dog Puck demanded belly scratches, and I can't say no to belly scratches. So I'm just gonna get my sauce going here. I can only handle so much fucking stupidity. This is a $50 bottle that I got for my birthday, and you know what? My birthday was in July. This lasted me till September, including my week vacation at the cottage. This has been great. This is my new favorite because I don't like kill it immediately. So give me a bottle of Kraken and see how fast that shit's gone. So I gave Puck some belly scratches and the appropriate boops that have been requested to be passed on. So, alright, where was I? Oh right, they want to gut people's retirement benefits. Career civil servants enjoy retirement benefits that are nearly unheard of in the private sector. Yes, the private sector has gutted retirement benefits, so the government should gut retirement benefits. Hey, this is one of the things why it's so funny when generations older than mine look at like millennials and Gen Z, I think they are, Gen Z, and be like, what are your retirement plans? And we all go, ha 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 ha, hilarious. The fuck is a retirement plan? The fuck are you talking about? What's retirement? I jokingly call the millennial generation, like, you know, because I don't really believe in those terms. Most of they're funny for memes. So I like jokingly call it the sacrificial generation, the oldest child generation. Federal employees retire earlier, normally at age of 55 after 30 years. Enjoy richer pension annuities? Side note, weren't the conservatives trying to raise retirement age to like 70 or 80 or something? Well, not like people need to live after work life is over anyway. Work until you drop dead. I know, right? That's basically what they want, right? That's the intention. So the whole, work hard in your 20s, 30s, and into your 40s, and then retire and go enjoy your life is, like, not a thing that exists. And so they're mad that a lot of us aren't doing that. That we're like, well, we're going to take advantage of our younger years and then work when we're older. We may as well. We're going to be working the whole time anyway. Enjoy richer pension annuities and receive automatic cost of living adjustments based on the areas in which they retire. Wow, imagine. Defined benefit federal pensions are fully indexed for inflation. Good? A practice that is extremely rare in the private sector. Maybe the private sector should do that. Maybe the private sector should care about its family of employees. Maybe the private sector needs to suck a giant dick. A federal employee with a pre-retirement income of $25,000 under the older of the two federal retirement plans will receive at least $200,000 more over a 20-year period than will private sector workers with the same pre-retirement salary under historic inflation levels. I'm sorry, Katina. None of us are ever retiring. Cheers. Drink up. Why are you spending money on alcohol instead of spending money on your retirement? Do the math. Yeah, do the math on this vitriolic ass fucking unstable economy. Yeah, I'll do the math. During the early Reagan years, drink for Reagan, just did. The OPM reformed many specific provisions of the federal pension program to save billions administratively. Yeah, see, they want to tell the people of the country that they're supposed to govern to go fuck themselves so they can have more money. Right? Like that's what we're reading here. Right? That's what that says. The government is supposed to be for the people. The money there is literally no better place for the government to be spending its money by definition than the people that are paying into the government to make the government do the things that the people need them to do for their benefit, for the people, by the people, of the people. America, asshole. This is amazingly anti-American. Baffling. Under OPM pressure, Reagan, drink for Reagan, and Congress ultimately ended the old civil service retirement system, the CSRS, entirely for new employees, which, counting disbursements for the unfunded liability, accounted for 51.3% of the federal government's total payroll. The retirement system that replaced it, the Federal Employees Retirement System, FERS, reduced the cost of the federal employment retiring disbursements to 28.5% of payroll, including contributions to Social Security and the employer to match to the Thrift Savings Plan. Remember when I said I didn't hate this document based on its contents? I hated this document based on its conduct, like the way it's laid out and how. And I said that I would likely start hating this document eventually due to its content. I hate this document due to its content. We reached that point. We got there. It sounds like not spending on avocado and toast will buy you a house somehow, because that's how that works, right? More of the pension cost was shifted to the employees, but the new system was much more equitable for the 40% who received few or no benefits under the old system. Hey, I got a question for you guys. Do you think that if they left the old system in place and inflation got out of control the way it does, do you think the government would have stepped in and been more aggressive against the private sector if in inflation and what they were doing with inflation, with COVID and price gouging people in times of crisis? Do you think the government would have been more willing to curb that and do something about it if the government was going to have to pay dickloads of money in dealing with that inflation for the retirees that were incoming, like both their employees that were retiring, the ones that would retire in the future, and the current retirees they were paying, because suddenly the government would have had to pay like an exponential amount of money? So do you think maybe the inflation wouldn't be what it is right now, and as bad as it is right now, if this was a factor that existed? Obviously, on its own, maybe not, but as like an additional pressure to the government, a financial pressure, maybe. By 1999, more than half of the federal workforce was covered by the new system, and the government per capita share of the cost as the employer was less than half the cost of the old system, 20.2% of FERS payroll versus 44.3% of the CSRS payroll, representing one of the largest examples of government savings anywhere. That's not savings. That's not what that is. These are the people who are like, well, we closed down 7 stores so our CEOs made more money. Look at how great and how much money and how good our company is doing. If you are cutting benefits and you are cutting employees, you are not succeeding as a business. If you have to cut those things, it means you are failing. That's not a good business strategy. Making yourselves less appealing as a company makes you worse. Yeah, this is not saving. I'm offended. Who is stupid enough to buy this bullshit? This is horseshit. And again, I say, any conservative viewer out there, I implore you, you don't have to let these people bully you and take advantage of you. Please. I understand you maybe don't like the Democratic Party for whatever reason, but that does not mean you have to, let these people just raw dog you in the asshole. Please. Although the government pension system has become more like private pension system, it still remains much more generous, and other means might be considered in the future to move it even closer to private plans. Please don't do this. GSA landlord and contractor management. Oh no. The General Service Administration, which again, no brackets, the formatting, is best known as the federal government's landlord, designing, constructing, managing, and preserving government buildings and leasing and managing outside commercial real estate contracting with 376.9 million square feet of space. Obviously, its prime function, real estate expertise, is key to the GSA's success. No, maintaining a building is not the same as knowing real estate. David, help me. Please. I can't do this. I can't keep going. I've done really well to make it through all the way to chapter 3 before I start losing my mind. However, the GSA is also the government. See, they're using GSA, but they didn't put the bracket up here like they have with other ones. I guess they did put it there though, which I guess is something. However, the GSA is also the government purchasing agent connecting federal purchasers with commercial products and services in the private sector and their personal management functions. With contractors performing so many functions today, the GSA therefore becomes a de facto part of government-wide personnel management. The GSA also manages the Presidential Transition Act, PTA, process. I kind of wish the government had a PTA. They had PTA meetings, with parents. Which also directly involves the OPM. A recent proposal would have incorporated the OPM and GSA and OMB. Fortunately, this did not take place in that form, but it would make sense for the GSA and the OPM leadership of staff to hold regular meetings to work through matters of common interest, such as moderating PTA personnel restrictions and the relationship between contract and civil service employees. Reductions in force. Reducing the number of federal employees seems an obvious way to reduce overall expense in the civil service. No, the obvious thing to reduce the amount of fucking money the government is spending and reallocating it is, you don't understand. The money exists, right? The government has an amount of money. It then budgets and distributes that amount of money. You're not saving money and having that money not go anywhere if you reduce the number of employees. The budget is still there. The budget is still allocated to wherever it was supposed to go. All you're doing is making your government worse. If you want to change the distribution of that money, where are you sending it? Because the money exists regardless. So if you're cutting the employees, and you're cutting the benefits those employees get, and you're doing X, Y, and whatever bullshit, what are you planning on doing with that amount of money that you've now re-put into your budget? What are you going to do with it? Also, if you really want to reallocate spending in the government, you already have the means to do so. That's what the budget is. That's what the costs are. You even talked about it earlier in this thing. You talked about how there's a budget and the budget needs to be allocated early on in a presidency. If you want to move money around, where do you want to move it? are you just suggesting, which is what I think you're suggesting, because this is the type of people that you already described that you were, based on your citations of what you did in the past and who you are as people, that you want to take money and resources from low-level employees to enrich yourselves, and you're the ones who are going to be taking the additional money? That, because again, the money exists. This isn't reliant on profits because this is the government. This isn't a fucking private sector company. I hate you. I hate you so much. So all this is people that have worked in the private sector coalescing themselves into a loose-fitting group where none of them have to take responsibility of it for what they're saying and what they're putting out there, in an attempt to stage a coup to take over the American government so they can profit off of not just you living and existing as per their own companies, but also so that they can have access to your tax dollars and profiteer off of that too. Tax dollars aren't profit. You greedy fucks. Okay. Alright. Reducing the number of federal employees seems like an obvious way to reduce the overall expense of civil service, and many prior administrations have attempted to do this. Prior President Bill Clinton and Barack Obama began their terms, as did Ronald Reagan, drink for Reagan, and Donald Trump, by mandating a freeze on hiring of new federal employees, but these efforts did not lead to permanent and substantial reductions in the number of non-defense federal employees. Yeah, see, they exclude the military. Side note, yeah, because the hiring process is the hiring process of the previous administration, you dumbasses. Of course they put a freeze on it when they come in, because Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, well, Bill Clinton doesn't want to use Bush's senior's hiring process for his staff, and Barack Obama doesn't want to use George Bush Jr.'s process of hiring and expectations of hiring staff for his staff, the same way as Reagan didn't want to use Carter's, and the same way as Donald Trump doesn't want to use Biden's or Obama's. It's really very simple, and you're making it and trying to pretend it's something that it isn't. The goal was never to make any reductions in the first place. That wasn't the point. That wasn't why it was implemented. Have you, any of you that are doing this, gone to a therapist recently? You might want to. You may want to consider getting your fucking heads checked. Do you think the scenario is going to be the apocalypse of the USA if it ever comes to pass? In theory, yes. Like, in concept. This is so anti-American that I have a hard time believing that any, like, government of America that actually implements this is already corrupted and gone so far away from actually Americans' values that it would be unrecognizable as America at that point. America is about freedom and the people's right to live a substantive life that is comfortable, right? The freedom to seek like your best life, right? This, implementing anything that looks like this, is the opposite of that. So if this were ever implemented, I think you would already be in an unrecognizable America, to the point that it would not be America anymore as an outsider looking in. So I think if something like this in its entirety is ever implemented, America's been over for a while at that point, in my opinion. First of it, if that answers your question. First, it is a challenge. I mean, and as a Canadian, we have concerns. Like, I would be concerned if this was something that was like, I'm already concerned. I'm worried for you people. Are you guys? You're not okay. Can we help? Like, can we do something for you? Do you need like some brownies? Like, I don't. I promise I will appropriately label the brownies that have pot in them and the brownies that don't have pot in them. First is a challenge even to know which workers to cut. As mentioned, there are 2 million federal employees, but since budgets have exploded, so has the total number of personnel, and with nearly 10 times more federal contractors than federal employees. I mean, I don't think it would be a bad idea to have less contractors and more employees. I think that's a good idea. As a European, you are concerned. I know, right? Everybody's like, are you guys okay? People, like, America, as much as they like to talk about themselves, not individuals in America, by the way, I'm talking about, like, the media, likes to look at themselves as like, America's super important on the world stage and what we does matter and our economy collapses and everybody else's economy collapses. And it's like, okay, yes, but you understand that people are watching you, but I don't think you understand the perception that people have when they are watching you. Right? So you understand that you're being watched, but you think that you're being watched with some kind of reverence, and that is not the case. You're being watched with concern. And, like, not concern for ourselves because if you fuck up, we're fucked. No. It's concern of, like, are you guys okay? Like, what? Can I hand you, like a fire extinguisher? Like, what are you doing? And, like, will whatever happens in America affect other places in the world? Yes. The same way as if something happens in China, it affects everywhere in the world. Something happens in Canada, it affects everywhere in the world. And the rate at which depends on, like, what happens, right? An economic crash is an economic crash. But you say this like that other countries haven't been through economic crashes that are coming from America or starting in America before, and that we haven't put in things to help implement and deal with things like that. One of the things that I applaud Trudeau for doing is he started distancing Canada from America a little bit, like not fully, but he started like arm's lengthing and being like, no, we're still friends with you guys, but you gotta stop getting us in wars, please, thank you. and things like that. And so, like, having that, like, still friendly tied in economies, but also, like, maybe being a little bit less tied in, so that way when you do crash, we're not absolutely fucked. You know what I mean? You know. Contractors are less expensive because they are not entitled to high government pensions or benefits and are easier to fire and discipline. Yeah, that's so you're hiring contractors because you're shitty employees. Got it. Employers, sorry. In addition, millions of state government employees work under federal grants in effect administering federal programs. These cannot be cut directly. Cutting federal employment can be helpful and can provide a simple story to average citizens, but cutting functions, levels, funds, and grants is much more important than setting a simple employment size. Can provide a simple story for citizens. The citizens are idiots. Simply reducing numbers can actually increase costs. Yes. OMB, I agree with this. OMB instruction following prior President Trump's employment freeze told agencies to consider buyout programs, encouraging early retirement in order to shift costs from current budgets in agencies to the retirement system and minimize the number of personnel fired. Oh, he did that shitty thing. Yeah. The Environmental Protection Agency immediately implemented such a program, and OMB urged the passage of legislation to increase payout maximums from $25,000 to $40,000 to further increase spending under the cuts. Quote, Former President Clinton's OMB had introduced a similar buyout that cost the Treasury $2.8 billion, mostly for those who were going to retire anyway. Moreover, when a new employee is hired to fill a job recently vacated in a buyout, the government for a time is paying two people to fill one job. Okay. They say this like, oh my god, Clinton spent money when he was the one who balanced the budget. What is needed at the beginning is a freeze on all top career position hiring to prevent, quote, burrowing in by outgoing political appointees. Ah, yes, it's all about controlling and having everybody who control... fuck you. Moreover, four-factor... I'm curious to talk about Russia a little bit, but I can't keep doing this. I can't go on about it right now. I have thoughts, and I want to discuss, but this on the plus side, this is bringing up some interesting conversation. They were going to retire anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Because more and more people of age continue to keep working because they otherwise cannot make a living. What? No. Moreover, four factors determine the order in which employees are protected during layoffs: tenure, veterans' preference, seniority, and performance in that order of importance. Despite several attempts in the House of Representatives during the Trump years to enact legislation that would modestly increase the weight given to performance over time of service, the fierce opposition by federal managers, associations, and unions representing long-serving but not necessarily well-performing constituents. What do you mean not necessarily well-performing? Here's the thing, right? If you already have checks and balances to ensure that you have good employees that are getting checked on a regular basis, then if they've lasted that long, it means they've survived all of those checks in the first place. Stay with one crazy at a time. Yeah, you're right, Autumn. explains why the bill failed to advance. Yeah, sure. Like, the adding of like additional little bits of shade in here is kind of hilarious. It's like a little bit of drama. Ooh. A determined president should insist that performance be first and wary of costly types of reduction in force. Impenetrable bureaucracy, the GAO has identified almost 100 actions that the executive branch or Congress could take to improve efficiency and effectiveness across 37 areas that span a broad range of government missions and functions. It identified 33 actions to address mission fragmentation, overlap, and duplication in the last 12 in the 12 areas of defense, economic development, health, homeland security, and information technology. Okay, I hate to be the bearer of bad news to these fucking morons who don't know how to run themselves out of a paper bag. Redundancy is important. Redundancy is not inherently a bad thing. Sometimes it's built in on purpose in key positions where it matters. Duh. Thank you. It also identified 59 other opportunities for executive agencies or Congress to reduce the cost of government operations or enhance revenue collections across 25 areas of government. Okay, here, I got one for you. You want to save a bunch of money real fast? You want to save a bunch of money real fast for Americans? Air Force One. Make the president fly commercial. Lol. A logical place that would be very funny. Come on. A logical place to begin would be to identify and eliminate functions and programs that's not a real answer, by the way, but cutting the cost of the president and their others' spending might not be a terrible idea. As far as I recall, Trump spent a lot of extra money on things he didn't need to. Hey, if we're not allowed to have avocado on toast, neither should Trump. Not that he would ever eat something so healthy. A logical place to begin would be to identify and eliminate functions and programs that are duplicated across cabinet departments or spread across multiple agencies. No, redundancy is there on purpose. It matters and it's important. I'm sure there are ones that you could try to reduce, but it would cost so much money to go through and do that analysis that it's probably not worth it. Congress hoped to help this effort by passing the Government Performance and Results Act of 1993, which required all federal agencies to define their missions, establish goals and objectives, and measure and report their performance to Congress. You want to reduce government spending? Let businesses fail, like Boeing, and stop bailing out banks that fuck everybody over. How about that? No? Bail out the people, not the business? Focus on the people, not... No? Not companies? 3 decades of endless time-consuming reports later, the government continues to grow, but with more paper and little change, either in performance or in the number of levels between government and the people. Boop. The Brookings Institution's Paul White emphasizes the importance of the increasing number of levels between the top heads of the department and the people at the bottom who receive the products of the government decision-making. The products? Stop calling it products. It's not products. Stop mixing these terminologies together. I hate it. He estimates that there are perhaps 50 or more levels of impenetrable bureaucracy and no way other than imperfect performance appraisals to communicate between them. I can tweet at Biden right now. Will it go directly to Biden? No, but it's probably not 50 levels. No, I'm not citing. No, fuck that. That one doesn't get a note. I refuse. The Trump administration proposed some possible consolidations, but these were not received favorably by Congress, whose approval is necessary for such proposals. The best solution is to cut function and budgets and devolve responsibilities. That is a challenge primarily for presidents, Congress, and the entire government, but the OPM still needs to lead the way government-wide in managing personnel, property, and even any future smaller government. So Congress out here just saving everybody, I guess. It's almost like the government was designed with it in mind that there are selfish bitches out there that are gonna try to corrupt, like there are checks and balances to stop just a corrupt person from coming in and doing whatever the fuck they want. Creating a reasonable career management service. The people elect a president who is charged by Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution with seeing that the laws are, quote, faithfully executed, with his political appointees democratically linked to that legitimizing responsibility. Yeah, it means you have to be faithful to the people and to the Constitution. Not try to finagle and wiggle around any way around it you think you can find. An autonomous bureaucracy has neither independent constitutional status nor separate moral legitimacy. Yeah, that's because that's not a person or even a group. It's a nebulous descriptor. It doesn't actually mean anything. It's a concept. Therefore, career civil servants by themselves should not lead major policy changes and reforms. The creation of this... That's why it does... Whatever. The creation of... I don't care. I give up. The creation of the Senior Executive Service was the top career change introduced in the 1978 Carter-Campbell Civil Service Reform Act. Its aim was to professionalize the career service and make it more responsible to the democratically elected commander-in-chief and his political appointees, while respecting the rights due to career employees, very much including those in top positions. The new SES would allow management to be more flexible in filling and reassigning executive positions and locations beyond narrow specialities for more efficient mission accomplishment and would provide pay and large bonuses to motivate career performance. See, they want to take money from people at the bottom and filter it up to people at the top. This is called trickle-up economics, where the people at the top steal from you and take your shit. The desire to... This is the... Remember when I said, hey, it sounds like this is what they're trying to do? This is them describing that exactly what I said that they're trying to do. The desire to infiltrate political appointees improperly into the high career civil service has been widespread in every administration, whether Democrat or Republican. Jared I have yet to see anybody be as fucking egregious about this than Ivanka and Jared Kushner. Why do we still call Ivanka Trump, by the way? Did she not take her husband's last name when she got married? That's not very conservative. Remember when the Obama administration set up an official Twitter account for the White House and Trump decided not to use it for reasons? Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Democratic administrations, however, are typically more successful because they require the cooperation of careerists who generally lean heavily into the left. It's almost like education and knowing facts make you want progressive policies that align with the facts. Such burrowing in requires career jobs descriptions for the new positions that closely mirror the functions of a political employee, a special hiring authority that allows the bypassing of veterans' preferences as well as other preferences categories, and the ability to frustrate career candidates from taking the desired position. Wow, so you just want to bully people. Okay. President Reagan, drink for Reagan. President Reagan's OPM began by limiting such SES burrowing in, arguing that the proper course was to create and fill political positions. This simultaneously promotes the CSRA principle of political leadership of the bureaucracy and respects the professional autonomy of the career service. Period. But, take a drink. This requires that the career SES employees should respect political rights too. But political rights? You mean the right to have a different political opinion than yours and not be fired for it? Actions such as career staff reserving access numbers of key policy positions as, quote, career reserves to deny them to non-career SES employees frustrate CSRA intent. Jargon. Another evasion... Yep. Another evasion is the general... I had to read that 3 times to make sure I read that correctly. Another it's almost like they put this through a fucking thesaurus. Another evasion is the general domination by career staff on SES personnel evaluation boards. The opposite... You mean people who know what they're doing because they work the job are the ones doing the evaluations? No. Do you have any idea how hilarious it would be if any prior president had to evaluate the sitting president? That would be fucking hilarious. Can that be a thing? Can that be a thing? Could that be a job that's like appointed to prior presidents that it's like, listen, we know you're retired, but could you fill out this evaluation sheet of the current sitting president? That would be really fucking funny. You don't do it your first year out, right? You don't start doing it until you've been out for a year. Like, you get a whole year off where you just go fuck off and do whatever you want. But, like, the second... like, that would be great. That would be fucking hilarious. I would read that. I would fucking watch that. Can it be like a video like what was that? The Office? Where it's like the president's doing whatever and he's working on whatever and it cuts to a former president and it's sitting and talking to the camera being like, no, absolutely. That'd be so funny. Oh, come on, do not, yeah, don't compare Ivanka to Barbie. Barbie's great, we love Barbie. Oh, that'd be so funny. The opposite of non-career, obviously you're excluded if you're a felon. Or if you get indicted or something. The opposite of non-career executives dominating these critical meetings, you can get voted off of President Island by the other presidents. I'm serious. The opposite of non-career executives dominating these critical meeting discussions, as expected in the SES. Career training also often underplays the political role in leadership and my brain. Insulates. Thank you. I got it. I'm sorry. My brain is at the end of this. Career training also often underplays the important role in leadership and insulates career first policy and valued viewpoints. Frustrated with these activities by top career executives, the Trump administration issued Executive Order 13957, or 13,957, to make career professionals in positions that they are not normally subject to change as a result of the presidential transition, but who discharge significant duties and exercise significant discretion in formulating and implementing executive branch policy and programs, an exception to the competitive hiring rules and examinations for career positions under a new Schedule F. It ordered the director of the OPM and agency heads to set procedures to prepare lists of such confidential policy-determined, policy-making, or policy-advocating positions and prepare procedures to create exceptions from civil service rules when careerists hold such positions from which they can relocate back to their regular civil service after such service. So, Trump signed an executive order to bypass the legality and rules to put in key positions of power his yes men. That's the translation. The order was subsequently reversed by President Biden. I feel like Biden should have taken advantage of it and then reversed it if he didn't, because that would have been really funny and it would have made the conservatives really fucking mad. At the demand of the Civil Service Association and unions, and probably for himself, it should be reinstated, but SES responsibility should come first. This is just telling me that whoever the next president is should do everything they can to stop anything like this from happening. I had a shower thought last night about this. I wonder how often the term serve at the pleasure of the president appears in this document, appears where a person should be serving the public. Yes. All of them. Every single one. That'd be fun to check. That'd be fun to find out. Managing personnel in a union environment. Historically, unions were thought to be incomparable with government management. Incompatible. Well, they're not. They were wrong. There is a natural limit to the bargaining power of private sector unions, but the financial bottom line of public sector unions is not similarly constrained. If private sector unions push too hard a bargain, they can so harm a company or so reduce efficiency that their employer is forced to go out of business and eliminate union jobs altogether. There is no such limit in government, which can... How many times has the government shut down while Trump was in office? Biden still has almost 5 months to pull dark Biden moment and save us all. Am I the only one rooting for a dark Biden moment? No, I would love to see that. Not because I think it's necessarily a good idea or that I think I would agree with the policies. I just think it would be funny, and I'm a Canadian, so I can... I'm allowed to be like, oh, I'm a little bit of an outside observer. So will I see consequences? Yeah, but, a little bit less impactful. Maybe. The government, which cannot go out of business, so demands can be excessive without negatively affecting employee and union bottom lines. Even Democratic President Franklin Roosevelt. Was Franklin Roosevelt a Democrat? Is that right? Because I know what, yeah, he was a Democrat. Despite the admiration for cousin Theodore, Franklin shared his father's bond. Theodore Roosevelt was the other one. Oh, okay. I was getting my Roosevelts confused. Got it. Even Democratic former President Franklin Roosevelt considered union representation in the federal government to be incompatible with democracy. And striking and even threats of bargaining. Threats of bargaining? That's not a threat. You tell on yourself too much with your language, assholes. of bargaining and delay were considered acts against the people and thus improper. It was not until President John Kennedy that union representation in the federal government was recognized. Good job, Kennedy. And then merely by executive order. So like when their guy does executive orders, it's really important and should matter and should be instated. But if somebody else does something they don't like by an executive order, they're abusing their power, or the power is merely that. Labor bargaining was not set in the statute until the Carter administration was forced by Congress. Were they forced to do so in order to pass this CSRA, although the bargaining was placed under OPM review. Wow, it's almost like in a democratic situation, you push and pull and you make concessions and you come to compromises. You don't just dictate to people what you want to be the thing that most benefits you in the short term to make money for your family. You're gross and I hate you. The CSRA was able to maintain strong management rights for the OPM and agencies and forbade collective bargaining on pay and benefits as well as management prerogatives. Over time, OPM, FLRA, and agencies, personnel offices, and courts, especially in democratic administrations, narrowed management rights so that labor bargaining expanded as management rights contracted. Period. But, take a drink. The main management rights are still in statute, have been enforced by some administrations, and should be enforced again by any future OPM and agency managements, which should not be intimidated by union power, rather than being daunted. Former President Trump issued 3 executive orders. Executive Order 13836 or 13,836, encouraging agencies to renegotiate all union collective bargaining agreements to ensure consistency with the law and respect for management rights. So they made people do a bunch of extra busy work. Executive Order 13837 or 13,837, encouraging agencies to prevent union representatives from using official time preparing or pursuing grievances from engaging in other union activities on government time. So he did 3 executive orders for union busting, and he basically admitted to that when he was talking to Elon Musk. That's funny. And Executive Order 13839 or 13,839, encouraging agencies both to limit labor grievances on removals from service or on challenging performance appraisals, and to prioritize performance over seniority when deciding who should be retained following reduction in force. Yeah, because you want to get rid of the people who are being paid out the most and putting in new people that you can take advantage of and pay less. This is classic fatherless behavior. We all were revoked by the Biden administration and should be reinstated by the next administration to include the immediate appointment of the FLRA General Counsel and reactivation of the impasses panel. So again, I would like to point out why reading this is important. You know now what they want to do. And what the Democratic Party should be doing is reading this thing and deciding, all right, well, here is what we're going to implement to make doing these things more difficult and doing these things nigh impossible, to protect whatever is working and needs to be adjusted from somebody trying to do this in the future. I said this yesterday, and I will say this again. Trump is obviously a problem, and he makes it very obvious that he is a problem. What is going to happen when you have a president that runs, does well, and then is using this as his basis? That's going to be a problem. And honestly, one of the things that I would love to see implemented is a 2-pronged solution. One is there needs to be consequences for a president or somebody running for president or a government official for lying to the public. That needs to carry a much heavier cost as opposed to the currently nothing. Second is a media body that the media needs to go back to doing what its actual job is. I don't know how to do that. That's just a thing that needs to happen. And part of that comes from you, the good people. Both of these things happen because you, the good people, tell the party that this is what they need to do. So you guys need to know this information and need to know how to tell your government officials that these things are concerning to you and that they need to be dealt with in X, Y, or Z way, or they need to figure out a way to deal with it. I believe in you. Congress should also consider whether public sector unions are appropriate in the first place. The bipartisan consensus up until the middle of the 20th century held that these unions were not compatible with constitutional government. After more than half of a century of experience with public sector union frustrations of good government management, it is hard to avoid reaching the same conclusion. Yeah, no, it's not. Only you think that, because you just want to steal money from people. Time theft, wage theft. Fully staffing the ranks of political appointees. The president must rely legally on his top... This is reminding me, who did we watch recently that was just like kept throwing the word legally in there? Oh, it was Black Wolf. It was OG Black Wolf 420 who was just like, I'm gonna fight you legally. I'm gonna do this legally. All this is like, we're just tossing the buzzword legally in here because we're just gonna try to like, you know... The president must rely legally on his top department and agency officials to run the government on top White House staff employees to coordinate operations through regular cabinet and other meetings and communications. Without this political leadership, the career civil service becomes empowered to lead the executive branch without democratic legitimacy. Sure. Well, many obstacles stand in the... Basically, they've already been doing that, but we want to get rid of we want to legally be allowed to get rid of everybody that we want to based on their political affiliation and whether or not they agree with President Trump or endorse President Trump. And yes, I'm saying president now because they still believe this guy's a fucking president. While many obstacles stand in his way, a president is constitutionally and statutorily required to fill the top political positions in the executive branch to both assist him and provide overall legitimacy. Most presidents have had some difficulty obtaining congressional approval of their appointees, but this has worsened recently. After the 2016 election, former President Trump faced special hostility from the opposition party and the media in getting his appointees confirmed or even considered by the Senate. Yeah, because they weren't good for the job. His early office of presidential personnel, one of the first things he did was fucking put an executive order tariffs on fucking steel and shit to oppose foreign people, but the people that affected was the trades with Canada. Like, what the fuck? It was so weird, and it totally fucked up the steel industry. This is the first thing he did was fuck up the steel industry. And he's like, I love steel industry. I am the best. His early Office of Presidential Personnel, PPO, did not generally remove political appointees from... Generally. They did, but not generally. From the previous administration, but instead relied mostly on prior political appointees and civil servants to run the government. Such a reliance... It's almost like President Trump didn't know what he was doing because he wasn't appropriate for the job and wasn't an expert and didn't know what he was talking about. Such a reliance on holdovers and bureaucrats led to a lack of agency control and absolute refusal of the acting attorney general from the Obama administration to obey a direct order from the president. Oh yeah? And what was the order? I'm writing that down. I'm writing that down because I bet it's really funny. Order refusal. Page 114. Hey, we're doing pretty good on our shit here. Look at us go. We got a lot of pages. Under the early PPO, the Trump administration appointed fewer political appointees in its first few months in office than it had been appointed in any recent presidency, partly because of historically high partisan congressional obstructions, but also because several officials announced that they preferred fewer political appointees in the agencies as a way to cut federal spending. No, are you sure it wasn't just because you were incompetent? I bet it's because you were actually incompetent. Whatever the reasoning, how many people worked for the Trump administration again that were in and out? Like the place was like a fucking revolving door. Like, people were complaining who had been long-time employees were like, it's a revolving door in here. This is unbelievable. Whatever the reasoning this had, the effect of... whatever the reasoning, we're so confident that we need to be like, yeah, but never mind about the bullshit we just spewed. Whatever the reasoning, this had the effect of permanently hampering the rollout of the new president's agenda. Then he should be a better boss then. Thus, in those critical early years, much of the government relied on senior careerists and holdover Obama appointees to carry out sensitive responsibilities that would otherwise belong to the new president's appointees. Fortunately, the later PPO, OPM, and Senate leadership began to cooperate to build a stronger team to implement the president's personal appointment agenda. You say that like they didn't cooperate. They did cooperate. You just suck. Any new administration would be wise to learn that it would need a full candor of sound political employees from the beginning if it expects to direct this normal federal bureaucracy. A closer relationship between the PPO and the White House and the OPM, coordinating with agency assistant security of administration, and PPO's chosen White House liaisons and their staff at each agency is essential to the management of this large, multi-level, resistant and bureaucratic challenge. So they're like, listen, we just want to be allowed to fire everybody, rehire whoever we want, regardless of whether or not they know what they're doing, because they're going to do whatever we tell them to do, and they're going to be ignorant of any rules or regulations, or completely ignorant of whatever the consequences of those things are going to be, because they're not professionals, and they haven't been there a long time. And we want to be able to pay them shit and give them shit for it, so we have a high turnover rate, so we can get more done and have less bureaucratic issues? Sure. Yeah, that makes complete sense. That's how that's going to go. If, quote, personnel is policy is our general guide, it would make sense to give the president direct supervision over bureaucracy with the OPM director available in his cabinet. I mean, he already would have that, so I don't know what the problem is. A reformed bureaucracy. Today, the federal government's bureaucracy cannot even meet its own civil service ideals. Show it. The merit criteria of ability, knowledge, and skills are no longer the basis for recruitment, selection, or advancement, while pay and benefits for comparable work are substantially above those in the private sector. It's really interesting that they're like, hey, this old thing is the way we used to build things, and because it's old, we should go back to it. But these other things that were introduced should be introduced again and introduced harder, because why? If the old way is the best way. I'm just saying their argument isn't good. Retention is not based on isn't based primarily on performance, and for the most part, inadequate performance is not appraised, corrected, or punished. That's not true. You said that people came forward and there was like a 20% success rate. So it wasn't even very successful. So that doesn't even make any fucking sense. You're contradicting what you've already said. Like you do every time in this. It's impossible for them not to. On the other hand, by the way, admittedly, this document is not here to make arguments or tell people why they should be doing these things. This document is propaganda and is just telling you, expecting you to believe what they're saying. This isn't to make arguments. This has less argumentation in it than like a Christian apologetics book, because it's not for people who are not Christians. It's for Christians to feel better about whatever argumentation that they have and that they think is going to be convincing to them already. This isn't even trying to convince you. This is just trying to tell you what it is, because they assume the people who agree with them either already agree with them and know the wink wink nudge nudge about what's going on, or are too stupid to read it themselves or comprehend it in the first place. Which is kind of rude. The authors have made many suggestions here that, if implemented, could bring that bureaucracy more under control and enable it to work more efficiently and responsibly, which is especially required for the half of civilian government that administers its undeniable responsibilities for defense and foreign affairs. While a better administration central bureaucracy is crucial for both those and domestic responsibilities, the problem of properly running the government goes beyond simple bureaucratic administration. The specific deficiencies that the federal bureaucracy, size, level, organization, inefficiency, expense, and lack of responsiveness to political leadership are rooted in the progressive ideology that unelected experts can and should be trusted to promote the general welfare in just about every area of social life. But you just said that Trump tried to put people in and they were rejected on these premises. Meaning that you can't just do that. You just described how you can't just do that. If you could, then Trump wouldn't have had an issue. This is so fucking dumb. The Constitution, however, reserved a few... Oh, by the way, this is the appointee position, government efficiency, that Elon says that he wants Trump to appoint him to do. Yeah. The Constitution, however, reserved... They're just trying to build Shinra. They're just trying to build Final Fantasy VII Shinra. And the problem is that Trump isn't Rufus. And neither is Elon. The Constitution, however, reserved a few enumerated... Actually, I have something that I want to talk about when it comes to Final Fantasy VII, and I'm going to make a note about it, because I'm going to forget. FF7, Shinra, and Rufus cover up, and corporate stuff. Okay. Sorry, that's a side note for me. Mental note. The Constitution, however, reserved a few enumerated powers to the federal government while leaving the great majority of domestic activities to state, local, and private governance. As J. Madison explained, quote, the powers reserved to several states will extend to all the objects which, in the ordinary course of affairs, concern the lives, liberties, and properties of the people and the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state. Yeah, that's what they've been describing this whole time. Modern progressive politics have simply given the national government more to do than the complex separation of powers the Constitution allows. That progressive system has broken down in our time, and the only real solution is for the national government to do less, to decentralize and privatize as much as possible, and then ensure that the remaining bureaucracy is made efficiently along the lines of the enduring principles set out in detail here. I don't hate the idea of some things being privatized that the government has control of, that maybe the government should be separating a little bit more. So, for example, Sweden. Sweden has a very interesting education system. Like, they have a privatized education system and a privatized healthcare system, except that those systems are paid for by the government, but chosen by the people. So the government gives out money and vouchers for education, but you get to decide where you spend that money. So it makes the people of the country the consumers. The businesses are the social services, and the government is footing the bill. Does that make sense? I think it's a very interesting thing. I think it could absolutely be adopted and adjusted in some areas, and I would like to see it implemented in a couple of ways. I mean, particularly when it comes to at least colleges. Like community college, I think that would be a great thing to apply it to, but that's just me. Author's note. The authors are grateful for the collaborative work of the individuals listed as contributors to this chapter for the 2025 Presidential Transition Project. The authors alone assume responsibility for the contents of this chapter, and no views expressed herein should be attributed to any other individual, except when they reference it and say that this is a good idea, and, they like to just suck their own dicks in the first part of the author's note. And then I will slow scroll through as we wrap up these citations. So if you want to screenshot or take a look at any of these on your own, you can do that. Can you hear my voice starting to go? I go about 2.5 hours and my voice is like of reading, and my voice finally starts cracking, and it's like, okay, we're done here. So I'm going to be taking a break. Then I will be live doing some art until about 6 p.m. my time. So I'll probably start maybe sometime around 4. And then do 2 hours or so of art, because I have a meeting to go to and to set up to work on a new show that will likely be coming to this channel if you are so interested. And it's going to be basically justifying philosophy. Where I've got a lot of people who do philosophy joining me on a panel, and we're going to be discussing day-to-day concepts that are philosophical concepts and ideas, and how to apply them to your day-to-day life, so that way the philosophy is basically self-justified. This is just blank. But we have made it to chapter 1 of section 2. We have made it to a page 119. We are going faster. We are getting through this. We be fucking zooming. So I will be back tomorrow, hopefully. I don't want to promise tomorrow, just because last time I did 2 4-hour stints, and this time I've done 2 2-hour stints, so I might be able to do a third one tomorrow. But we're going to wait and see. I'm going to go do some stuff, take a break, make a phone call or two. Phone call, Discord call. And I will be back soon, and I really hope you're interested in the philosophy. I know philosophy gets hoity-toity, but we're basically taking it from hoity-toity and just dragging it down to our level where it belongs. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you so much for supporting financially, either through super chats or through membership. I'll see you guys in the Discord as well, and there's going to be, I forgot to put out content yesterday that was supposed to be for members. Shit. There's going to be content for members coming so as soon as I'm done as soon as I'm done uploading it. I'll get that out to you. I'm so sorry. I just realized. Thank you so much. I'm going to get out of here. Have a good night, everybody. See you on Twitch for art. Bye-bye.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. God have mercy on your soul.